Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. There's something different about you as a guest, as our third guest on the Be Entrepreneurial podcast. Do you
What's
know what it
that?
is?
No, what's different?
We have never met.
This is true, and that is a shame.
We have never spoken. we've we've communicated once via email, and you as a guest come highly recommended. So that's fantastic. But I think that's interesting that you and we've never met, we don't know each other. So it was interesting for me to sort of prepare a little bit for this, having actually never met you at all. Is this odd for you? Is this awkward, having never met me, but actually being on the podcast?
Honestly, no, I love to go into any experience just completely open. So I love to challenge myself like this. So I'm looking forward to the conversation that we're about to have.
That's entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Ready to jump in at any time.
Tackle it head on.
Yeah.
Tackle it head on. Well, listen, thanks so much for being here. Why don't you tell me about yourself as an entrepreneur in 30 seconds or less?
Yeah, so I am a registered holistic nutritionist and I focus on gut health and stress management. So 2 months into my practice, I realized all my clients didn't really know how to consume bone broth or never tried it before. So I wanted to create a line of nourishing beverages that were easy for them to enjoy on a daily basis. So pretty much I took bone broth and I made it taste like their favorite beverages, like a bone broth hot chocolate or a bone broth coffee.
And where did that come from? So, like, when you sort of make the connection between, I was a holistic practitioner, and then I thought that bone broth would be a good thing to put into people's bodies, generally speaking, but people aren't doing that. Like, where does that connection come from?
Well, I knew I needed to figure out a way to help my clients enjoy bone broth. And honestly, it just came to me in a meditation one day. I was just sitting there in the stillness and I just heard it and I saw that vision. And I got up from that meditation, tried mixing the two of the items together right away. I had a lot of bone broth on hand at the time. And then, the rest is history from there. So it really just came to me through a meditation one day. So I feel like I could barely even take any credit for it, to be honest. But that's where the idea appeared from.
I think there's some credit in there somewhere. But why? So was the whole concept of bone broth new at that time, or is that something that you had been using personally for a period of time before that idea came to you?
Yeah, it's something that I always had in my practice, in my personal practice since I started school. So I went to the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, and almost in every single class, bone broth was always mentioned just because it's such an ancestral food. People have been consuming it since before time. I mean, using the whole animal in a really primal style of nutrition. And I really love hugging onto those roots. So I was trying to add it into my daily routine just because it's really easy for your body to digest. It's super nourishing. So being a gut health nutritionist, always coming back to the simplicity of the foods, it was just a no-brainer to try and incorporate that into my clients' diet.
And when you thought of when you sort of first came up with the concept or the idea, were you thinking about it through an entrepreneurial lens? Like, did you immediately sort of think like, hey, there's a business, like there's an opportunity here, or was it less business and entrepreneurial oriented and more just this would be interesting to try?
Honestly, this will be interesting to try type of thing. So never in a million years did I dream of being an entrepreneur. So I was never business focused. I knew that if I wanted to take my holistic nutrition practice full time, I would need something on the side to kind of marry in with my practice that will help. So I really just thought Beck's Broth would be a side business for me. And then it quickly, in a matter of months, took over to consuming my life fully. So yeah.
And would you consider yourself entrepreneurial by nature?
That's a great question, and nobody's ever asked me that before. I think I'm a connector by nature. So I love to be able to connect with people and make them feel better, if that makes sense. So I think having a product that really makes the consumers feel like their best selves, I think that helps me be a little bit entrepreneurial, but it's really just about meeting people and making them feel awesome. So I think that's what really drives me being an entrepreneur.
And how important is it to you to do that in your own way, in a way that's unique to you?
I think it's really important because that's what keeps me motivated. I think it's super cool to wake up every single day and feel out my schedule and just work with intention. Like I don't have to do things a certain cookie cutter way that anybody's telling me to do. It's just really interesting to try and figure out all those things on my own and see what happens from there. So I'm really enjoying that process of learning what it takes to be an entrepreneur and a business person, I guess we can say. I mean, I definitely am trying to work towards being that CEO type woman one day. So right now it is just me, and I have a team of people that I work with that I have contract on. But yeah, I think just being my own person and working through with intention is definitely important to me.
I hate to break it to you, but you're already a CEO.
Thanks. That actually feels really cool to hear.
And so it's just interesting to me because I often hear from entrepreneurs that they didn't necessarily consider themselves to be entrepreneurial by nature, which is why I like to ask that question. And it's funny because your description is kind of like that. You don't give that resounding like, yes. It's well, not really. I kind of connect people and I connect things together. And so that sort of led me in this direction. But the description that you gave for sort of how you kind of, went on this journey and ended up doing what you're doing now was, I think you said, I always wanted to, as a holistic practitioner, I wanted to do something specifically. And so it sounded like there was like, although you were, I don't want to say just a holistic practitioner, that's a feat in itself, right? But it sounded like there was always sort of something there that you wanted to either incorporate or do differently, or in before it was just there's two things here to connect. Am I understanding that correctly, that you sort of had that element of it? But it's interesting. So you don't consider that to be, or do you consider that to be entrepreneurial by nature?
No, I guess you're right. I mean, when you put it that way, I would definitely say entrepreneurial by nature, but it's something that I think when you are an entrepreneur, it's really hard to put labels on yourself and almost understand that way of thinking. Like I never thought I was born to be an entrepreneur or born to lead. So when you open up and you have these discussions, it almost helps you reflect in a way. It's like, that there was clear signs like my whole life pretty much that led me to this moment. But it's just about really reflecting upon those.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of track back just a little bit here, but were you the type of person growing up to sort of get out of your comfort zone and go and experience new things and do things differently and try new stuff? Or were you more of sort of like a comfort zone sort of person?
Honestly, I think growing up, I was more so that lost soul type of person. I was always the one in my friend group. I was always the youngest in my friend group, so we can start there. But I had no idea what direction I was moving into when I was younger until it was when I was 19 and I moved away from home and started working for a marketing company. Like I had no idea in high school what I wanted to be or where I wanted to go. So this came at me pretty fast in my mid 20s.
It's amazing I wonder how much the lost soul mentality actually helps to drive an entrepreneur later in life, because something about being a lost soul or feeling like you have a lost soul means that you're also trying to discover like, what is that meaning? What am I here for? What do I need to do? And so there's this sort of when you're lost, you find yourself searching or looking for other things. And I wonder, or what do you think? Do you think that sort of having that sort of lost soul element to you helped you to develop some of these sort of curiosity connector of things that led you to where you are today?
Yeah, I think I went into it being very unbiased. Like I didn't have this certain fixation on anything. So it allowed me just to kind of feel. And that feeling allowed me to pivot into different directions without being completely set on a certain direction. So I think that definitely allowed me to move into where I am today, just because I was just kind of bopping around and seeing what fit. And then of course, when you find what fits and you allow yourself to have that space to connect with something, I feel like that's when people often thrive. So by me being a little bit lost in the beginning, it actually really helped me get to this stage.
I love it. Tell me about Beck's Broth.
Yeah. So there is so many exciting things happening and I don't even know where to begin. So we started the business in, well, when I say we, I do just mean I'm a solopreneur, but when I say we, it's just the collective of the brand. So we started in November of 2021. So pretty much in the midst of the pandemic. So that was a little bit scary. But yeah, so we make bone broth beverages that taste like your favorite drinks. So we do a bone broth hot chocolate and we do a bone broth powder, or sorry, a bone broth coffee. But right now we are actually in the midst of a really fun rebrand and a new product line. So right now we are packaging our product in glass jars, but we realized a couple of months ago that we're not able to scale this product to where we want it to go. Being a glass jar and needing it to stay in the freezer section, it's really hard to scale in retailers and across Canada. So we completely pivoted and we are transitioning over to a powdered product line. So that's super exciting. And so we decided to, once we're announcing this new whole line of beverages, we're going to do a complete rebrand. Because in the beginning, like I said, this just kind of happened and took over and grew as a monster. So we decided to take this opportunity to completely rebrand the product as well. So in the beginning, we just kind of threw everything together. And then we realized that we needed to put in some market research and we needed to put in some work if we really want to be leading in the bone broth industry one day and in the beverage industry for that matter. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
So that's all awesome. There's a lot to unpack, and I'm gonna start unpacking it. The first thing is the very first thing that you said, which is the word "we," and I find it so interesting. Not only that you said it, but that you caught it. Because I find myself doing that so many times and through my entrepreneurial history. Why do you think that whether it's yourself or so many entrepreneurs are so afraid to just say, I'm doing this. I had this idea. It's always, no matter, don't get me wrong, there's always other people who are helping us along and helping the journey and that sort of thing. But ultimately, you're the founder, your idea. Why are you or so many entrepreneurs, do you think, just so resistant or hesitant to just go, I did this?
I don't know. And I ask myself that all the time because people always say, why do you say we? And I feel like when I just say it's coming from a place that almost doesn't even sound true. It's like, oh, like I did this, I did that. And it's just like, oh, like, no, like we did it. Like the help of the community helped me get to this point. So I feel like I'm almost discrediting everybody else that was involved. If I say it just doesn't feel like there's a truth to that. I just want everybody to be included. I don't know. It's so silly, but I do know so many founders just like to say we, and it's almost hard. It's hard. Like when I try and say it almost feels like there's like a little block in my throat that doesn't want to spit up that word. So I feel like saying we is just always the easier approach. I'm not going to stumble on my words as much. But yeah, that's really funny. I'm not too sure why we do that, but
no, I'm just curious. I just find it happens so much, right? And so the other thing I wanted to sort of ask about is, so when you talk about your rebrand, is it accurate to say that the rebrand started with a necessity within your business, that being the glass jars, some operational efficiencies, lack of scalability? Was that sort of the thing that then drove all of the other stuff that then created the rebrand? Or was it the other way around where it was like, hey, we're going to rebrand anyway, and while we're doing that, let's look at some other elements of our business, or something else?
yeah, I think it really came to me one day when I was applying for a certain grant. So I was really redeveloping my business model and what our goals were. So both the rebrand and the new product line really worked together harmoniously. It was like, well, if we want to output a new product, let's make our branding represent who we truly are. I feel like at heart and like the personality of the brand is just super fun and bubbly and trendy. And I feel like our branding wasn't really giving us that. I feel like we would need to honor Beck's Broth for what it truly was. And that really just meant a complete rebrand to really hone in on how we want others to perceive us. But they really did come up at the exact same time. It was new product line. Let's get our branding done and let's just really rock this world with both the launches at once.
And I love that. On the the element of sort of like the scalability and the glass jars, that sort of thing, like what we're really talking about there is the operational components of a business. And that can often be very difficult. That's sort of like if you think about sort of like the points of entrepreneurship, you've sort of gone through those points a little bit more quickly than some people, I think, where you sort of had the idea, got things up and running, things got some traction, and now you're at that point where it's like, okay, take stock of everything, take a couple steps back, and what got us here won't get us there. How do we get this to the next level? Where are we going from here? And it sounds like you've done that like really, really, really well in a relatively short period of time. What are some of the internal challenges that you've experienced as an entrepreneur at this particular stage, knowing that this particular stage for people who don't have like a business operations background can be really, really difficult? And I guess I'd preface this with it sounds like you applied for a grant and the grant probably gave you the feedback that, things are good here, but you're probably going to have these challenges if you want to scale further. So if you want to get the grant, you need to fix these problems, which, somebody's telling you something about the business that can help you, right? Is that's sort of accurate about how that sort of came about?
Yeah. And so right now it is me in the kitchen doing everything as well. And I realized at the end of the day, when I was in production, I don't come from a manufacturing background. So it was just so laborious and so hard and difficult. And it's a dirty job making bone broth. I mean, it's greasy, it's heavy, it's hot, right? So I would come home from the kitchen every single day, just exhausted, and then figure out, oh, I still need to grow the business. And I was thinking to myself, okay, imagine if we grow the business, how much more work we're going to have to do in the kitchen. And honestly, there was so much fear associated with that. I was like, I want to grow, but at the same time, I cannot be in the kitchen that much producing this much product. And it was really hard to bring in an employee or try to look for an employee that could help fill my shoes in production, because since we are working with such a heavy product and hot and messy, it was scary to almost like find somebody that I could trust to take over for me, because I was also like, oh, I don't want them to do that either. Like, it's a hard job. So I almost had a hard time passing over that baton to somebody else. So then that's where I was like, hey, you know what? I need to pivot and brainstorm to figure out what we're going to need to make us grow as a business. And I already know that the conversations that I had with retailers, so right now we're in 13 retail stores in the Guelph and Kitchener-Waterloo area. And I already knew that selling glass jars in retail is difficult. I mean, as soon as a retailer hears, oh yeah, this is a glass jar, it's going to be in the freezer section, it almost loses its sexiness and its appeal. It's like, oh great, something else that's going to get lost in the freezer, when that is such a high premium space to be, because it takes so much energy and there's limited room. So I knew right off the bat that moving forward in a liquid format in jars was just not going to be, it wasn't going to be it for us. We needed to problem solve. I'm almost losing the question.
That's okay. But you've pretty much answered it. It was the around sort of like the operations of the business and how challenging, or did you find it challenging to sort of have to shift that mindset away from, I'm sort of running a small independent business here. It's growing, it's good, but to take it to the next level, I've got to you're talking about the operations and the manufacturing of the business and how.
I think I always knew right in the beginning that we would one day want to transition over to a powdered blend. So as soon as that came within reach to me, I fell in love with the idea. As soon as I started recipe development, I fell in love with the product. So as soon as it finally came within reach, it was just, a full send. Like I was putting all my energy on making this happen. So it wasn't really, we haven't said goodbye to the liquid product yet, but we will be in the next couple of weeks. But as soon as the ideas and we finally got into motion, it's been really easy just to kind of completely pivot. And that's one thing that I learned in the beginning from a really good mentor of mine. It was like, always be ready to pivot. Entrepreneurs, they need to pivot on a daily basis. And if you're not ready for those moves, they're going to be a little bit more hard to navigate. So I just kind of let myself stay open and really work towards what's going to drive our success.
And how early in your entrepreneurial journey with Beck's Broth did you see or know some of the challenges that you were going to face?
I
up
feel
to
like
and
I felt
including
this.
sort of, yeah, up to and
Okay.
including some of these, right? So what I'm trying to understand is like,
Right.
so you're talking about sort of the challenges between like the glass and the liquid and the
Mhm.
powder. Like, did you know that very early in the game, eh, right?
Yeah, I knew that very early on in the game, only because living and breathing something, I'm constantly trying to figure out, well, what can happen to go wrong so I can just problem solve before we even get to that point. So in the beginning, like I knew that we had a really great future for Beck's Broth, and I knew the glass was going to be an integral part of us growing. So I knew that we needed to build a foundation here. We really need to understand the product and really understand what our customers think of the product and the community before we really change and pivot. Because changing to this direction of the powder, it was a really big investment for us. So for us to be able to say, yep, this is a good idea, I really needed to get the collective feedback of what everybody else around us was thinking towards the product and the brand. But in the beginning, right away, I knew it was going to be hard to scale glass. And we really do want to be as eco-friendly as possible as a business. I never wanted to start a business by having a very large footprint. Like that's why I always wanted to use like upcycled ingredients. So we're using a bone broth because bone broth for one, like I mean, like without us using these bones, they would have just went right into the landfill. Nobody would have been using them. There would have been wasted nutrients. So I was really proud that we were able to take something and actually make it nutritious for others in a different way. So in the beginning, I knew it was going to be hard. We were going to run into challenges with the glass, especially because we were in the middle of the pandemic and there were shortages everywhere. So as soon as I felt those when I was coming to place my orders with the glasses, I felt that right away. I was like, there was shortages. There was 2 months waiting for supplies that I needed. And I knew right then and there, I was like, okay, this is just scary. It's a scary place to kind of try into and explore and grow. So yeah, pretty much since day one, we knew of a lot of challenges. And I mean, don't get me wrong, every single day I'm learning of a new challenge. So they just kind of keep on piling on at this point. But I like to think that we have a pretty good grasp on what we're doing now.
And what would you say to entrepreneurs who are prone to letting the imperfections or the known challenges prevent them from taking the step and doing something, regardless of the fact that it is known that it's going to have a ceiling, it's not going to work, it's going to have some challenges. So it sounds like you, despite knowing all those things, you didn't say, okay, well, I'm going to wait and figure out how to solve these problems. I think you had some very specific reasons for doing it, which is great. But what would you say to those people who sort of see those problems and go, well, I know these problems exist, so I've got to figure them out before I start my business, before I start getting customers, before I start getting up and running and tell the world where I'm going and what I'm doing? What would you say to those people who let those imperfections or challenges prevent them from getting started?
That's a great question. I think you just need to give it your all and get started. Because if you don't get started with something, even if you do see those challenges and view them as blocks in the road, if you don't get started, you're never going to get anywhere. You need to figure out what works or what doesn't work, because you might think that there's going to be a challenge down the road that you won't be able to navigate. But then as soon as you try it out and you come closer to that problem or roadblock, you're going to be able to see different solutions. So I think that's the really exciting thing about just going for it, because you can't see exactly what's in your side view, right? I mean, you can't really see those things until you're at a certain point, and then all of a sudden maybe you meet somebody new that can help you with a certain problem that you're experiencing, or shed some new light on what you're experiencing. So yeah, I think just one of my biggest things, and I've said it from the beginning, is just leap and the net will appear. Just do everything that you can and it'll work itself out. You'll feel supported. As long as you feel open to success and really knowing where you want to go, as long as you strive towards that, everything's going to work out. Regardless if there's a problem and you're coming at you full on, to navigate that.
And I feel like in your case, there were skills that were learned by just starting as well. Do you think that if you, let's just hypothetically say you had waited and you knew that the glass jars weren't going to work, you knew that the liquid broth had its ceiling, and so you decided to go, nope, I'm going to figure out the powder thing before I get going. Do you think that you would be able to do the same thing that you're doing today, or would it look and feel differently had you not done the things that you knew weren't going to work well anyway?
Yeah, no, I think it would. I don't think we would be so successful and confident with where we are now. So starting with the glass jars, we didn't need such a big investment up front. So it really allowed us to understand the market. It really allowed us to get the proper mentorship we needed, really understand like what's going on in the industry. And that's something that has been so integral to our success is now I'm really understanding how the retail world works, how the business world works, where I was almost still like, still feel like a little tiny pawn in this huge world of business and entrepreneurialism. But I feel like if I was to try and go full force with the proper branding and the product in the beginning, like the powdered product, I feel like I would be starting 10 steps back further than I really was anticipating. So almost having this, it's been about a year and a half now, but having this year and a half with not our star product that we always envisioned, it allowed us to learn so much, but not be viewed as the Beck's Broth that we want to be viewed at, say, in 2 months from now. So it was almost like a little trial period. Like this whole year and a half has been a complete trial period to us helping us map out where we want the brand to go in the future without kind of having somebody look at our branding and automatically connecting us with what we've been doing for the past year and a half. So now it's almost like we're starting a completely new second business in 1 month from now because we waited and we learned and we listened to what was going on in the industry and our community. So now I just feel like we're ready to kind of take it head on.
And just to back up a tiny bit, I'm trying to recall you're not entrepreneurial by nature, correct?
No, I guess I am. I think I have a different answer now.
Triple check. No, but that is so impressive to be able to consciously focus on the long game, even if that means that the things in the short term are uncertain, tremendously uncertain. I want to commend you for that because I know from experience that is a very difficult thing to do internally, and it's a type of thing that just eats you up every day, and it requires work and passion and mental strength and physical strength to keep getting past that. So I almost like I have this feeling inside of me when you say that. I understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and I know how difficult that is day in and day out. So yeah, I just want to commend you for doing that because I think that is one of the things that holds so many people back, but in my opinion is just such a necessity. It's you hear it all the time. It's something you got to go through, but you don't know what that means until you actually did it. And you sort of did it consciously knowing that this wasn't the thing, but you're going to do it anyway. And you knew why you're doing it and you plowed through. And that is it's just phenomenal. And clearly that's taken you to a place where you are now, which is at the stage where you're ready to sort of boost your business and your brand up to the next level.
Totally.
Amazing. And I want to talk about when you started the business. So you started it during COVID, during the pandemic, like so many other entrepreneurs these days are doing or some form of doing what they did or what they started during the pandemic. What was it for you that made you want to start this, or not want to, but made you actually take that first step and start this during that period of time? And how early was it in COVID that you started?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. And I feel like this is a story that I'm going to hold on to literally to the end of time, just because I personally think it's very cool. So I was working for a marketing company down in Mississauga for about 8 years. And then the pandemic hit. And so we got the opportunity to learn how to work remotely. And I had this feeling where I was like, oh, this isn't a small thing. Like, we're in for a wild ride about what's going on with COVID. And it's more important now than ever to really learn about your body and health and really what fuels certain health within you. So as soon as COVID hit, there was a couple of months after that where I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to school to become a holistic nutritionist because I need to find out the truth. I need to educate myself. There was so much drama and there was so many things going on. And I had no idea how to contribute to the conversation because I felt like without that education behind me of holistic nutrition, I didn't really know what to say. So I went to school for holistic nutrition a couple of months into COVID when I was able to work from home. And then as soon as I graduated, I was like, I'm leaving marketing. I know that my energy and time is going to be well spent elsewhere. So it was pretty much a couple of months into COVID, and then a year into COVID, a year and a couple of months, I graduated, and then started Beck's Broth 2 months after my graduation. So I knew that I had more to say than I was currently saying, and I felt like I wasn't in a position where anybody would ever listen to me or take me seriously when I was in marketing. So
no,
I just wanted to find my voice.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And the connector of dots, the connector of things. And how much do you think that your marketing background helped you with what you're doing now?
Honestly, so much. So I started at the marketing company when I was 19 years old. Didn't go to post-secondary school. I started with them as a receptionist and worked my way up into project management. And at the time, we worked with brands like Clorox and Burt's Bees and Mars Chocolate and Nestle, and we worked to help them develop their in-store displays and merchandisers. So when I was in that position, I really was like, this is never going to help me. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm helping all of these big brands that, like me, a holistic nutritionist, or like I knew I was always interested in helping a chocolate company succeed. I just was like, this doesn't make sense. So I never thought it was going to help until I actually made the leap to build a consumer packaged good brand. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a project manager. I know how to connect those dots. I understand where I need to go from point A to point B to C to D. I can see that timeline, and I know how things like that execute. So I feel like my history in project management and also in like marketing has helped so much, where at the time when I was in that space, I just thought I was learning useless skills. I was like, I'll never use this again. I don't know what this is going to be good for. And now I thank God every single day that I was with such an amazing company that really trusted me to work with these big brands and talented designers and just such a powerful team. So I feel like that's been integral to the success of Beck's Broth, just understanding how things work from an operational point of view.
And how much within sort of the marketing of Beck's Broth do you find has or requires an element of education?
That's a great question. So I really intuitively like to work, and I like to speak with my community and connect with them. But when it comes to marketing the brand itself, I knew that I needed to heavily invest in that section of things. So my background, I'm not great at graphic design. I'm not great at really finessing a good story. The story's there, but I need help to amplify it, to really solidify it. So I knew in the beginning it was going to be extremely important for us to put a lot of dollars into the marketing aspect of things, because I knew the potential, and I know what good marketing does to a brand to help it succeed. So in the beginning, we got our brand and spun off really quickly, but I knew for our rebrand, that's where we were going to invest our dollars. And I actually found I'm working with Wonderkind Co. down in Austin, Texas for the rebrand to really help with our new logos, assets. And then I'm also working with a new copywriter to help develop our story. And we just found the most perfect team to really give Beck's Broth everything that she deserves. So I'm just super excited for this new rebrand, because we've spent a lot of time and energy and to make it happen. So marketing is important. I'm getting so excited over here.
I can see it. It's great. I'm excited for it. So if you think about sort of where, and if you don't mind me asking, up until now, so prior to rebrand, was it you that was doing the marketing? Did you have somebody on your team? Did you have a partner? Did you outsource it? What did that look like in terms of actually putting the materials, the content together, the brand story, even though it was hard to do? How did you do that, and who did it?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when I launched my practice, my holistic nutrition practice, I worked with a girl who's actually one of my really good friends now. Her name is Ashley, and her business is Bloom Your Biz. But she really helped build my website, and she created what is my current logo right now. So we kind of whipped everything together. So I really relied on her to help create my marketing materials. So she really helped me develop everything that was going to print. And then for everything else, it was pretty much me. So all the socials, I'm just constantly on there trying to pull what works and really learn from what drives our sales. But it's really just, I almost feel like it's a separate, like our marketing is a separate thing, because it's really just me hopping online with our followers and our community every single day, just talking to them, building that story. I feel like that's what's been the most powerful, because everybody that's been following along the Beck's Broth journey, they know something big is coming. And even though, yes, they love our product, they support our product fully, they're so excited for the success of the business and our growth. Like every single day I'll share like what's on my to-do list, what are we doing today to get to tomorrow, and they're just amped. So every day when I can go on and see like, wow, I'm learning so much. Hey, you're inspiring me to start a business because I can see everything that you're doing. And then I also get to share with them like, yeah, every time I fail or every time I need to get back up because something crazy happens. So they're so invested in the story right now. So I feel like that's my little bit of marketing that I'm able to bring to the table, because I just want to be completely candid and honest about my experience, because this is my first time doing something so crazy. So yes, I work with somebody to help get all the assets ready for the business. But then other than that, it's just been me dipping my feet in the water, figuring out what's working, what I need to do, who I need, or how I need to speak to the community. And yeah.
And I feel like your friend Ashley, what's the name of her business?
Bloom Your Biz.
Bloom Your Biz. I feel like she deserves a bit of a shout out, because I know how difficult it can be to take something at a very early stage when sort of the ideas are like all over the place, big visions, but micro tasks. And for somebody to be able to take that and in that state and turn it around into something that can take a brand from there to here, that is a remarkable skill set.
Yeah, I cherish her so much. And she's helped with every little question that I have, even if it's not in her scope of work. She just helps me problem solve, and she's always saying yes to everything that we need or figuring out how she can help. So yeah, that relationship has really blossomed over time because she is just so important to me, and then also the brands. Yeah, we love her.
Hence the we.
Yeah.
And this is more sort of a personal observation of your marketing and your brand. And I just wanted to tell you what I observed and then ask you about it. So what I observed is that you have a number of environmental and sustainable elements really sort of built into like the core foundation of everything that you do. But when you look at your marketing, that isn't necessarily front and center in your brand and your marketing. And that's one of the things that I see so many entrepreneurs who are so passionate about environmental and social and sustainability elements of business and in life in general. It's one of the things that I find that they experience so many challenges with, is that balance between, hey, we're a broth company and here's all the great things we do for people in the world, and so that's why you should buy the product, versus we are a brand, we have an amazing product, by the way. And despite your level of passion for the environmental, sustainable, social elements of your product, of your business, of your community, it's still not something that you sort of throw right up there in people's faces every day. Is that an accurate, before I ask the next question, is that an accurate observation?
No, you really nailed it on the head. And I think sometimes it makes people nervous to almost hear about those types of things. Like, I am very passionate about it, but then I feel like as soon as I start to like get passionate about it, that's where you can lose people. They become intimidated by that. But I really do, like, you're completely right. I need to change my story and shift it a little bit to let people know that we do take those active steps to really making sure that we are a green business and that we're doing everything we can to really be a sustainable business. It's really hard to have a voice of a product and then also kind of tie in these unique things that are going to help our brand look attractive. So since it is, me on the team that's doing everything, something needs to take a back seat. And sometimes that is just the voice of me trying to preach my love for the environment and everything sustainable. But yes, it is on my handy dandy notepad that we really do need to share this story more, because that's what people also do want to hear. In the beginning, I thought that it would maybe deter them away. They weren't so interested in our story because it was kind of like every other Greenpeace company out there. But it is really an important story and an important truth that we do need to share.
Yeah. And so just to sort of clarify though, I'm sort of my observation is a positive. It's a positive, right? In that you're right. I sort of see oftentimes where you get these environmental and social elements of a brand sort of put in your face every single day. What you gain is your belief in your values in these important things, but what you lose is what's so great about your product, which is ultimately why people are going to buy it, right? And so I actually think that it's you've done it in quite an impressive way where, you know, the first thing when I was introduced to your brand, it's not the first thing that I saw. It's the third thing that I saw. But that's good, right? The first thing that I saw is Beck's Broth. It's great. Here's right. And it was interesting. I've never heard of broth, coffee, and hot chocolate before. And sort of, I was interested in it. And then you sort of like go down the story in your presence and you go, oh, interesting. Here are the reasons why these things are done. Here's what she believes. And so it's an addition to the story as opposed to the story. And I actually think that helps you to craft that story and helps you, in my opinion anyway. So I actually meant it more as a compliment as opposed to why aren't you doing this? Because I do find that often trying so hard to market those pieces front and center in the brand can actually take away from some of the things that make you so impressive. And I think the other thing is, although those elements, those elements are important, but what I believe is even more important is supporting founders and businesses where you know that they are embedding these elements into their products and into their business practices and into their community. I don't necessarily feel like I need to know how many trees you're saving, you know, or like the difference between packaging and, you know, I just sort of, do I get the sense and do I believe that you as a founder, you as a business are acting responsibly, purposefully making sure that you're doing things in a way that are better for the world, better for people, better for the environment, better for communities. I just get that sense about you and your business and you as an entrepreneur. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. It sounds like it might have been accidental, but it's just, I guess, what are your thoughts on all of that in terms of, you know, advice for other entrepreneurs who have these social sustainable elements to their brand and are trying to figure out how you actually go to market and how you sort of make a splash in the world, talking about your product, talking about your brand, but also doing things responsibly.
I really do appreciate you saying that, to be honest. I mean, it was one thing that I really try and let my intuition flow when it comes to marketing and what we share and how the business looks to others and how people are going to perceive us. So, I mean, just to hear you say that, I feel like that really touches my heart in such a huge way. To just even see that you were able to pick up on those notes and really almost like dissect our brand like that. So that's very cool to hear. So thank you. But yeah, another thing is like, you just don't always need to be preaching to somebody. Like, I feel like that was a big thing to me. It was like, yeah, like I can preach about how many bones we're recycling on like a daily basis or whatnot, or I can just really stay true to like really making sure that our product, like you fully believe that, yeah, like we're responsible. And all we want to do is make you feel good and loved, and we're doing it the right way. I think that's exactly the message that I'm trying to drive across to people, is that we're a self-care product. And by being a self-care product, we're also, like just a brand that is trying to do everything the right way in terms of sustainability and just really reducing our carbon footprint. So I don't want them to have to worry about that aspect. That's an aspect that I have to worry on. I just want you to worry that, I don't want you to worry, but I just want you to know that you're being fully nourished. That's all you need to know. You don't need to worry about those crazy back end things that we're going through as a business. I just want you to really focus on the nourishment that you're receiving, which I think is just really important to me.
And I feel like that's what a good brand does too, right? Is it what you've sort of described is what I would classify with one word, which is trust. And, everybody in business will tell you, if your customers, if your community trusts you, you're so much further ahead than anybody else. And it sounds like sort of you not necessarily understand. Yeah, I mean, you understand it, but it's not necessarily your reason for doing it. But it sounds just by nature, your community, your audience, your customers trust that you're doing the right thing, that in all sorts of different ways. And I think that is that's another sort of element of your brand, your business that you've done so well already, which I can't wait for the rebrand, obviously, but just sort of telling that story over time and understanding that it's not any one message that's going to get jammed down people's throats that is going to make or break your business or make or break your sales or make or break your brand. It's an accumulation of messages and feelings and seeing you and hearing you and all over a period of time that ultimately are your brand and how people talk about you, how they think about you and how they feel about you.
Love that.
And what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who new entrepreneurs who are just about to kind of start out on their journey? Like they're just at that point where they've had that Beckie's COVID moment, which is today's the day, I'm going to get started. What is the advice, generally speaking, that you would give to them?
Yeah, there's a couple of things there, but really seek mentorship and also community. I think those are two big things that can help guide you in the right direction. I mean, I've had my fair share of mentors since the beginning. I think I'm working on like number 5 right now, but it is so powerful to be able to sit down with somebody and then share your thoughts and the direction that you're hoping to go on and get somebody else's not opinion, but just even they can help you get there, or they can be like, hey, but have you thought of this? And you're like, no, but that's brilliant. And I mean, just like having that conversation is so important. And then also one thing that's been extremely important to me is in the beginning of business, about 6 months in, I found another female founder who was pretty much in the exact same stage as business as I am, a couple of months older than we were, but that has helped so much. I talk to her every single day. We brainstorm everything together. So it feels like I'm not so alone, because being a solo entrepreneur can be very lonely and confusing at times, but just having somebody else that understands what you're going and can kind of share that empathy at times is just phenomenal. So shout out to Dominique from the Happy Era, because she is my soundboard every single day, and she has helped us grow so much in the last few months. And I know that she would say the exact same thing about us. So,
and how did you find Dominique?
So she also works with the Guelph Small Business Center. So I think I found her through maybe the Guelph Small Business Center posting her Instagram story or something. It was through the Instagram community. And I actually went back and I found my first message to her the other day on Instagram. And I was like, hey, do you want to go out for lunch one time? So I remember we went out to Bread Bar in Guelph, had lunch, and I texted her afterwards. And I was like, sorry if this is too forward, but I feel like we're going to be very good friends. Like that was such an easygoing lunch. I have endless amount of things that I want to talk to you about. And honestly, ever since there, we've just been like glue. So yeah, it's find your people. Like that's all I need to say, because it's gonna make the growth of your business so much easier. For sure.
Sounds like you're feeling very nostalgic as your rebrand is coming up.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, and I'm beyond grateful for everything. I think the journey's been not easy at times. I mean, there's difficulties to everything, but just finding your community and just really leaning into that and trusting yourself makes everything else feel so special and just so easy. So, I mean, even though it's been not like a hard journey, I would never change that for the world. It's been so much fun at the exact same time. And every single day I constantly impress myself. It's like, wow, how am I doing this? Like, I have no idea when I kind of take a step back and look at what we've been able to achieve over the last few months. But yeah, it's amazing. I'm very proud.
And I have one more question for you, but I have something I want to ask about that first. So I guess that's my way of saying I have 2 more questions for you. And so I don't know how to phrase a question. So many people are working from home these days. And I feel like for some reason, so many people who are sort of looking to start a business or get into entrepreneurship are also people who are finding themselves working at home if they've got sort of a not regular job, right? But if they've got a job that is a work from home position. So given that advice, which is go out, find your community, find your people, find some mentors. Do you think that's harder today than it was pre-pandemic?
I think so. It's almost hard for me to say because I've only experienced it post-pandemic. So I feel like I've only experienced it since we all worked our way through the lockdown and whatnot. But I think if you're truly committed to wanting to grow your business, you almost need to be a little bit of an extrovert in my opinion, because I think that's really helped me get out there and weasel my way into networking events and just letting you be seen by others. I mean, it definitely can be difficult, and everything post-pandemic has a little bit more of an additional barrier. But if the pandemic taught us anything, it's that community trumps all. We know that by now. So yes, it can be difficult, but I think people really need to put their efforts there. If they're even feeling any bit of insecurity with their growth, I think, yeah, building that community is really going to help them overcome any of those negative emotions.
And I think that's fantastic. Yeah, and I think that's really good advice, because I you hear this all the time, which is find your people, find your community, network. And I feel like post COVID, post pandemic, people interpret that as digital first. So if you're going to network and you're going to find your community and you're going to, grow your peoples, you're going to go to LinkedIn, or you're going to start posting on Instagram or get on TikTok, but what you're talking about is get the hell out of the house, go places, meet people, do things. Is that accurate?
Definitely. And I think if anybody is confused about how to do that and how to find the networking events that are going to be true to you and make sense for you to go to, just go to your small business centers, and if you're local, go to Innovation Guelph, figure out those places that are going to have these events that are going to help your business grow. And I just feel like as soon as you kind of just show up, you might meet somebody that's going to have another resource for you to go and take a look at. And then they're going to have different events that call towards you. But honestly, stepping out of your house and putting yourself in those events is what makes the biggest difference. Like I know for me, just showing up at a networking event alone with some business cards in my pocket, I'm like, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Terrifying. But then at the end of the day, I leave feeling so cool. I was like, wow, I had this one conversation, or this one person gravitated towards me because they were also feeling a bit uncertain, and that helped you foster a connection further. So they really pull you out of your comfort zone, but that's what helps you grow, right? And being an entrepreneur, you need to be confident. You need to kind of have that level of you can talk to anybody and not be scared. You're not behind a screen anymore. So yeah, I think just kind of putting yourself out there at a social event, like in person, I think is a really great way to go about building your circle and making it a bit more diverse.
Awesome. And so my last question then is, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are at the stage where you are, where they've started something, that something has blossomed into something more, and they're sort of at that stage where they know that what got them here isn't necessarily going to get them there, and it's sort of like that next, I call it like that second phase, right? That when you've sort of got things figured out, now and it's almost like starting all over again. So you gotta, and I can feel that like deep breath within you, right? It's the here we go again, even though it's like the same business, you're relaunching, right? And so what advice do you have to people who are at the same stage as you?
Yeah. Honestly, just keep going. I think that's the best piece of advice that I can give, because when you're looking at it as a whole picture, sometimes it can just feel daunting. There's so many steps. There's so many areas that you just don't know. So they feel like almost a dark area for you to even try to navigate. It's every single day, write your to-do list. This is my to-do list right now. It is long and it looks like this every single day, if not longer, right? So, but the thing is make that list and just cross off at least a couple of things a day, or just keep on moving so you can cross something off. I mean, you're never going to feel like you're at a point where you're like, I'm comfortable, I'm going to take a week off. It's hard work. And you just need to, whatever that means to you every single day, is just keep moving forward. And if you keep moving forward, you're going to look back in a month's time from now, or like a year's time from now, and be like, holy shit, I accomplished so much. Or I grew into this person or this brand that I was not expecting, just because I kept moving forward. So whatever that looks like to anybody who's listening, it's just keep going. Yeah, just do it, as Nike said.
Absolutely. There's branding for you. And I actually, I watched Air on Saturday night. Have you seen it?
I haven't, no.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Good.
It's very dialogue driven movie. I feel like I need to say that. I like dialogue driven movies from like 90s, but yeah, it's like, if you like for entrepreneurs, business, marketing, like,
well, I'll add it to my list then.
It's on Prime right now. It's amazing.
Sounds great.
If you can fit that into your schedule. But sorry, I lied. I actually have one more question. I wasn't going to ask it. It's burning, but I feel like based on sort of that last answer, I have one more for you. Is that okay? Can I ask one more?
Totally. Yeah, of course.
So you are a solo founder, right?
Yes.
Were there any times where you wondered, should I get a co-founder? When you first started out, did you feel like you needed or wanted a co-founder? If you felt like that, would you have brought on board a co-founder if you found the right person? Or can you talk about sort of this balance between like solo founder, co-founder, and your journey through that, if you will?
That's an amazing question, because that's something I do think about and talk with a lot with my current mentors. So being a solo founder is hard. You need to be the decision maker for everything. It all falls on your shoulders. So, I mean, and I often joke around with Dominique from the Happy Hour about this often. It's like, why couldn't we go into business together? Like, I mean, is this something we should do? We work so well together. You excel in this area. I excel in this area. So I would have loved to have a co-founder in the beginning. And one day I really do hope that I can add somebody to our team that can act as a co-founder or become a co-founder, because it is hard to do it all by yourself. And it almost holds you back in a way, because there's so much more potential, but there's only so much time in the day. So I've really gotten comfortable these last couple of months of building our team from a point of view, like we have our graphic designers, we have our website designers, we have our copywriter. I onboarded one of my best friends as my brand strategist. So now I have this team of about 5 or 6 people, and I have them all be like introduced to each other, and they can talk with each other. And that has alleviated so much pressure this past month for me. It's just finding that team that works. So for me to say, like, do I wish I have a co-founder? Absolutely. I feel like it would have made things a lot easier if I would have found the right one. Don't get me wrong. I feel like we both really need to share the same vision and excel in different areas. So I know that can be tricky to find the perfect one. But yeah, I would have loved that.
Amazing. And I feel like you need to also give a little bit of a shout out to Dominique. Clearly, she's somebody who's very important to you, and you brought her up a few times. Can you just, for anybody who might be interested in what she does, can you just sort of tell us really quickly who she is, what her business is, what she does?
Yeah, so she is also a female founder from Guelph, or I guess Leamington, but she resides in Guelph now. So she has a high protein waffle, and she is also bringing in a line of dried mixes. So like high protein muffins and then pancakes mix and stuff like that. So our products pretty much similarly work together, which is why it's so easy for us to have those conversations. But yeah, she's perfect. We love her.
And
she just brings the happy era.
Happy Hour. Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so before we go, where can people find Beck's Broths if they want to find Beck's Broth, which I hope and think they will?
Yeah, so right now if you go to becksbroth.com, you can order online for local delivery. By the end of September, we will be able to ship our new product Canada-wide. So huge. I'm so excited. We're actually launching the day I get back from my honeymoon. So September is going to be quite a blur, which we're nervous about. But right now, if you're in the Guelph area, you can find us at Market Fresh, or in Kitchener. We're at the Kitchener Farmers Market and Vincenzo's and the Fiddlehead location. So pretty much the health food stores in Guelph and then KW, or online at becksbroth.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on Be Entrepreneurial. It was nice to meet you, and I'm sure hopefully we can meet sometime again, maybe even in person.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful.
Take care.
All right. Bye, Jay.